there is nothing that is technically undeniable.
Hey, there you are. You're with me now.
What? We're going on to the next segment. Fuck this guy, man. It's your boys, Benz
and Tef.
And it's Think Twice. Thank you for joining us today. However you're listening, whether you're driving, whether you're watching on the internet, we really do appreciate you and thank you for tuning in. Today, we're sort of gonna discuss sort of like a Gen Z ideology, some might say. Some might find that interesting. It's postmodernism, which is basically a ideology that derived in the 20th century competing against modernism. It's sort of like a rebellious attitude to the way people used to think and used to create in the past. And it embraces the diversity and complexities of the world.
Absolutely.
It sort of rejects like overarching narratives that things have to be a particular way and critiques and analyzes the way things are in order to sort of make them better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is quite interesting. And it promotes like diverse individuals and diverse groups in order to bring ideas together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is like a proper interesting ideology to sort of delve into today.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads us on to our first question. Should you make significant changes to the way you speak when you're at work?
No, I don't think you should change the way you speak at work. However, a lot of people are forced to. I think people are forced to if their own personality doesn't match the culture at their workplace, they're forced to kind of adapt. You know, we're social creatures. We want to be accepted in our group. We want to get on at work. So I think it's really fair for people to change the way they speak at work to their colleagues, their bosses, you know. And if they don't want to speak to those people the same way they speak to their family and friends, personally, I'm not too mad about that, you know? How do you feel?
Yeah, people can't change it. I just don't think it's authentic. As long as you can communicate effectively, I don't think it's important I don't think you should change it. Obviously, a lot of people do change the way they speak at work and think it's important in order to sort of progress in their careers. But I think the moment you do that, you lose authenticity and you lose what makes you you. And as a result of doing that, I think you're a less valuable person to the workplace. To suggest that just speech does that is a little bit disingenuous because speech isn't... You can still get your ideas across however you communicate them if you do it effectively. But I think it's indicative of the idea that you are not enough and therefore have to change the way you communicate.
Yeah, but what if society's telling you that you aren't enough? Like, you, as you are, your own personality, you're not quite it. Like, how do you feel about people then tweaking that personality, making a change to that personality, which is obviously, we're talking about speech here, which is quite a big one, I think. How do you feel about those people who do that? Because a lot of the people who feel like they don't fit in because they are part of a marginalized group. Like,
yeah,
you know, Black people in Britain have a certain way of talking that's based on their background, their African heritage, and where they grew up in London. Let's just take London as an example. All of that stuff is not accepted it might not be accepted in a corporate environment, but their counterpart who grew up in suburbia, white, middle class, because the corporate culture more accurately reflects who they are, they don't have to make too many changes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So how do you feel about, you know, a marginalized group just trying to fit in?
So there's like a quote I heard, I don't even know if I should say who I heard it from and just claim the quote for myself. But
depends on the fucking quote.
The quote sort of goes that the world is changing so fast, the biggest risk you can take is not to take one at all. And it means in this sort of scenario that if you don't change anything and you continue to follow the status quo, people below you or people that come after you won't be able to reap the benefits of that. And I think that is important, and that's important for society, that people gradually make change to a better society. And I feel like that's your duty to society.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But I would say society needs to change, not the person. Like, not the black person.
No, but they're not changing. They're just being authentically themselves. And in order to create that change in society, they need to be themselves.
I hear that, but there's a lot of risk in just being yourself at work.
Yeah. There's risk in doing that. I totally understand what you're saying. But that risk is important to take.
But I think society should change as opposed to me taking.
But how are you supposed to change it then, big man?
Well, in a corporate environment, if you have black people from your background represented at the top of that company and they are involved in how they shape the culture of that company, then you're going to get to a closer approximation of a diverse workplace where everyone's, background, the way they talk, the way they act is accepted.
Yeah, understandably, but like to get them there and for them to actually have the impact on people below them that are black, for example, they have to be authentically themselves. So at some point, someone has to do it.
Yeah, but if you're authentically yourself, you're never going to rise to the top of the corporate ladder. It's just never going to happen. Having been there, I can tell you.
Yeah, that's... maybe I'm the idealist in this situation. I don't believe that...
It might be because, obviously, you work in a meritocratic system.
Yeah.
On some level, like your athletic output is the merit on which you will be judged.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Unfortunately, in the corporate environment, it's not a meritocracy. Like, you are promoted up the corporate ranks based on whether management like you. Like, that's a massive factor. And it's really got nothing to do with your output in the actual workplace. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So, in a meritocratic system, yes, I do think that you should be authentically yourself because you're not going to be judged too harshly for being yourself. You're going to be judged on your work. Whereas in a corporate environment where appearances is a lot of the job, I think you can be unfairly punished for being yourself. And therefore that's like the maths of the risk taken there is not in your favor. So
how would you then plan to rise up the ladder? Because what you're saying is like, okay, get to the top, right? So how would you get to the top?
I'm saying if for people who want to get, I quit the corporate rat race. Thank God I did. But are you saying how should people climb the ranks?
Well, by not being themselves, because that's what you're saying. Like, if they're not authentically themselves, how are they supposed to get to the top? And then, are you saying like, don't be yourself, get to the top, then all of a sudden become yourself? I can't support that if that's the case, because that's what you're saying, right?
But I think
stop there, man.
I think basically you're like making the mistake of thinking you can climb the ladder whilst being authentically yourself. That's categorically not an option. You'll be ostracized if you do that. And in a corporate environment, being ostracized is basically the end of your corporate career. If people don't like you, then you're done for. It don't matter what work you produce.
I can't argue against you, essentially, because I haven't experienced it, right? And I don't know if there are clear examples, because you have to be close to someone who has done it in order to say, yeah, this person did it. You can't even find examples on the internet, for example.
Right.
You can't find studies to show. But in my line of work, and obviously it's a
meritocratic system, yeah.
Exactly. Has left me with the idea that you can authentically be yourself and still rise.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest with you. I think where we can, I think like people who feel like the corporate environment suppresses their sense of being, if they've got options to move into other lines of work, I think they should explore that. But lines of work where it's more meritocratic.
But we must understand that, like, my way is the only way that can work. Because
what the fuck? We're not doing that.
Yeah, my way is the only way that can work, because essentially, like, if you're not authentically yourself and say you are ostracized, right?
Yeah.
You've taken that risk.
You are authentically yourself.
Yeah. And you've been ostracized, right? Mm-hmm. Those people understand that there are people like you. The issue is that if they don't understand that there is someone like you who's still good at doing their job, they will never change.
Yeah, but you're basically saying that, People should martyr themselves.
Or someone has to take the risk.
Someone should martyr themselves. Because deep it, yeah, you by the time you get to
I feel like that's exactly what I did in my. I didn't end up as a martyr, but like, it's exactly what I did. Before me, I didn't know, I wasn't aware of that.
right.
Like everybody that I could probably reference wasn't that. And I think it's important that that person, whoever in whatever industry we're discussing, has to do it, because history will look back on you fondly.
And history will look back on you fondly, bro. I just think like it's a tough situation for the corporate environment where appearances are so important and merit is less important for people to just go out and martyr themselves and take massive risks when it's taken them so long to get to this position, and they're trying to advance themselves in the corporate environment. I just think it's just too much to ask of them. I think the wrong is at a systemic level. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. The wrong is that you're basically working in a white supremacy, like in the corporate environment. And that is what's wrong. Not the fact that I'm not being authentically myself. That's not what's wrong. I'm just trying to survive out here. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I totally understand.
Yeah.
But like,
so I want the system to change.
My like issue with what you're saying is, okay, so where do we get the progression?
Well, you can get the progression by like doing things in a less like overt way. Like you can take on responsibility to try and run education at the corporate, in your company, wherever you are, try and get them to sponsor like more diverse programs in the company. Do you know what I mean? But you going out and just like being yourself in a meeting, it's just like, you know what I mean? I don't even know how effective that would be.
Okay, so we have to be very clear. When I'm not saying that like you talk to your colleagues the same way you talk to your friends.
Yeah.
The idea is you're still in like a professional environment.
Sure.
And even if the professional environment were full of the same people as you, I'd expect you to behave in a particular manner, right?
Yeah, okay.
So like obviously you're behaving in a way that is acceptable. It's just that maybe you eat slightly different food.
Yeah, you're not code switching or like you're not masking yourself completely.
Exactly. And I think you can rise with that still. And it's not that beneficial me saying that, in fairness, because it's not my life. But I just think that I'd rather go out on my sword than cower.
Yeah, look, it's admirable. I'm not gonna lie, and I think there are people who do that in the corporate workplace, but it varies. It's just quite complicated, and it's like you can also be more authentically yourself with colleagues that you're closer with and understand you more, or colleagues that are from a similar background to you. So you can like creep it in there. You know what I mean? So you can slowly make changes with certain colleagues gradually. And you can also do the other stuff that I was talking about. You can try and change the culture at the company by doing actual work around corporate culture.
That's fair.
So I think we can work on both ends. We can light the candle from both ends, you know what I mean?
And like, that topic's quite interesting because we're basically talking about perspectives, right?
Yeah.
So like how people see things, which leads us on to segment B and our second question today, which is, should you see reality as objective or subjective?
This one's tasty.
Yeah, man.
This one's fucking tasty. My answer to your question, the short answer is, it's subjective.
Okay. I feel that might be a change.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if you always thought it was that way.
No, when I explain it, I think you appreciate that I was always that way. I just think that...
Initially, I think we should explain what we mean by objective reality and subjective reality. Mm-hmm. Objective reality is sort of like external, verifiable facts that happen, usually scientific. Mm-hmm. Whilst like subjective reality is sort of focusing on the person's individual experience and their beliefs and their emotions around a particular situation.
Yeah.
To define what reality is.
Yeah. And when I was thinking about this question, I was thinking about like what is real? Like that's kind of the underlying sub-question of this segment. It's like what is actually real? And like you said, what can we verifiably know to be true about the world around us, i.e. what is objective? And I just think that what is objective in our world, we can't really access. Like, I think everything, the whole experience of being conscious as a human being, the whole experience of reality in that sense is subjective. And the reason why I think that is because we experience these things through our eyes, our touch, our ears, our nose, you know what I mean? All of these sensory things are how we interact with the world. So like these cameras, I can see the cameras in front of me and I can see them through the light that's coming through my eyes. And because I'm using my senses to filter what is objectively there, when I experience it, it becomes subjective because it's coming through the lens of my eyes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Your lens, the lens of your eyes is subjective to you, and you could see the same thing that I'm seeing in a different way. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. So you said all reality is subjective.
Yes.
So I ask you, like, the sort of thought experiment that people like throw out a lot is like, if a tree is in the Amazon and it falls and no one's there to hear it or see it, did it fall? Did it fall?
So it did fall, but we have no way of knowing it fell. Does that make sense? I cannot know that it fell.
Yeah.
There is an objective tree falling in the forest, but I cannot subjectively verify that fact. Does that make sense?
I even think the thought experiment's ridiculous.
Really?
I think it's a stupid thought experiment because if you actually think about what I've just asked you, no one knows.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. If you actually think about it, no one actually knows.
Yeah.
Therefore, it couldn't have fallen. If you actually think about it, it's just imagination at this point.
Yeah.
Which means reality has to be. I think you should see reality more through a subjective lens than an objective lens.
Yeah.
But I do think objective reality is a thing and it is important.
Yes. I guess my argument on objective reality is that we cannot access it. So, for example, like going back to the cameras that are in front of us.
I think we can. We can.
Let me try and explain why I think we can't, right? So the cameras, we've got lights behind the cameras. The light is reflecting off one of the cameras and I can see that light on the camera. Now, that part of the camera's black, that part of the camera where the light is reflecting, the camera appears to be lighter than the rest of the camera.
Yeah.
But, like, we would say that camera's black. But literally, my eyes are telling me something different. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but like...
So my reality is different based on where I'm sat in the room. So how can I verifiably say that that camera is black?
Yeah, but like objective reality is basically like shared knowledge, right?
Right.
Are you saying there's no such thing as shared knowledge?
I think we make approximations of the truth that we share around to make life easy. Because if I'm like Benz, can you pass me the iPad? I don't want to hear you respond back to me. What is pass? What is iPad? I don't want to hear that. I just want fucking iPad. Do you know what I mean? So we agreed that iPad means iPad. iPad means this thing. We agreed that the camera's black because we have to agree something. But that doesn't mean that we know objectively that the camera's black. We don't know that.
I think you've gone too far down the rabbit hole.
No, but like...
because I totally understand that argument.
Yeah.
But like, the reality that we live in, subjectively, is that we understand certain things all to be true. And if we understand something all to be true, it now becomes objective reality. Does that make sense?
But to me, objective reality is what the thing is in and of itself. Do you get what I'm saying?
Perceived by people, like...
No, that's subjective.
Well, it has to be. That is actually what objective reality is, because it has to be that. Otherwise, there's no such thing as objective reality. That's what is considered, that shared knowledge and like scientific data. Because like, if we have scientific data and you just say, okay, we have a meta-analysis, right? And the meta-analysis is through different researchers' eyes. Yeah. Therefore, it's subjective. Everything is subjective. Yeah. And that's what I mean, like, it's two far down the rabbit hole because
just because you don't like the answer, you can't change it.
It's too far down the rabbit hole. Because like when we have something that is shared amongst everybody, it now becomes something else. It now becomes objective reality.
I just think it's subjective times the amount of people who gave their subjective opinion. It's subjective times 100 or times 1,000. Do you know what I mean? And when I was doing my research this week, like what I'm talking about in philosophical circles is called transcendental idealism. So maybe I did go a bit far down the rabbit hole. But this and it kind of burns me actually that the person who came up with this came up with such a banger because, you know, he's got a very troubled past, Immanuel Kant. I'm not a fan of him personally, but transcendental idealism is just such a banger that it can't be ignored. And he came up with this idea that, you know, we don't have objective truths that we can access through our own senses. We have a subjective approximation of what the objective truth is. And because we have this filter by which we process that information, the filter being our own senses, and that filter is just human, like it's human, it's flawed, it's subjective, it changes from person to person. Because of that, we are experiencing a subjective reality that is subjective to us. And that is like a massive, you know, through thought of European philosophy since Kant. Like a lot of people have used transcendental idealism. Obviously, there's loads of flaws to it. There's people that have gone back and forth and argued against it. But I would probably subscribe to that thought.
But do you not accept that, like, once a large amount of people have agreed upon the same thing or have come to the same conclusion through their subjective lens, it becomes objective?
That's a mad jump to me. Because I think, well, I'm actually disagreeing on what objective truth is. Because to me, an objective truth is like an undeniable thing that is basically fact.
But there is, well, yeah, literally, but there is nothing that is technically undeniable.
Hey, there you are. You're with me now.
What? We're going on to the next segment. Fuck this guy, man.
I love it when I get ya.
Nah. So listen to this moral dilemma, which is maybe my favorite moral dilemma I've written, actually, if I'm honest.
It's a really good one.
It's a juicy little one. Let me not lie to you. Postmodernism is a little bit more interesting than I thought it might be anyway. Yeah. So if you have time and you might be thinking, oh, what can I read about today? Probably watch it here because we deliver it a lot better than everyone else does.
100%. You might get a bit bored out there.
Elsewhere, but we'll do another one if people enjoy it. So the dilemma goes: your friend is an artist and is presented with an opportunity to exhibit their artwork at a prestigious museum. The artwork challenges societal norms and power structures. If your friend accepts the exhibition invitation, there's a great possibility for great financial rewards and a vast amount of attention. But the museum has said the artist must only use artwork that conforms with the museum's expectations, meaning they have to alter their work not to challenge societal norms and power structures. Do you tell your friend to accept the invitation?
Yeah. I think he can go ahead and accept it and do it his way. You need to go do what you need to do. Go collect that check, bro. This scenario actually reminds me of a real life story. This Danish artist called Jens Hanning. Are you gonna listen to my story, bro?
You make me fucking sick, mate.
Are you gonna listen to my story
anymore? No, I'm listening.
So Jens Hanning, basically his art was exactly what you're talking about in the scenario. He challenged societal norms. He was making a critique of like modern capitalism. And his art was called An Average Salary in a Specific Country. And he'd take a frame, take notes, coins, currency of that country, average salary in Austria, and put 22K in a frame. So he was commissioned by a large museum, literally exactly the same as this scenario. And the museum gave him 70K, which is the biggest amount of money so far, and told him to commission 2 pieces. And he submitted 2 blank frames. Guess what he called that artwork?
Don't know.
take the money and run. So he took 70K and basically ran off on the plug. The museum sued him for breach of contract, and they won, and he had to give the money back. But his thing was, this was my way of critiquing modern capitalism. I took the money, and that is my version of the critique of capitalism that you paid me to produce. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So I think my friend artist, coming back to the scenario, he can just find his own way of doing it. You need to find a different way, but he can still do it.
No, I don't see. I thought that's quite interesting. It's better than what I expected from you.
What, you think I was just going to be like, oh, you know, sell your soul?
Sell yourself.
Nah, bro, you know me better than that.
That's why I was so shocked.
Right.
Like, what the hell? But that's actually like quite a fair argument. But no, I would tell him that he can't do that.
Really?
One, because like...
I imagine, by the way, sorry to interrupt you, that it's the biggest, like, it's quite a big check, yeah?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay.
And artists always need money.
Tough scene out there.
Yeah. Artists always need money. So it's important that you would take it. That's what you would think, that you should take it. But I just don't believe that you can have great integrity and really love your work if you take that opportunity.
That's fair.
I think that's critical to producing good art. And if your friend comes to you and he says, this is the scenario I'm in, and in future other things will happen, you can leverage that you denied this in future artwork.
That's true.
And when you leverage it in future artwork, that's maybe how you get your get back.
Yeah.
But to become like sort of a diva, somebody who is a little bit melodramatic, I think you lose people as a result.
Melodramatic about the way you rejected it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like that example, for example, you lose people. And as we all know, like industries are actually really small. Once you're in it, someone knows, one person knows, there's only two people away from you. Probably.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's just a matter of not burning those relationships and saying no and leveraging your get back in future.
Yeah, I think, like, to be fair now, you've been consistent from question number 1 all the way through to the moral dilemma. You've been consistent. You know what I mean? You're staying authentic at work. You're staying authentic in the art.
Have to.
I do feel like the pull to be authentic is stronger for me in this scenario than it is at work. And the reason for that is that at work, there can be some separation between your identity at work and who you are as a person in the wider world. And I think, you know, it's more acceptable to come to work with a work personality and go back home and be yourself. And it's more difficult for an artist to do that.
Yeah.
Because an artist embodies their art. Like, any good artist is living and experiencing what their art is about. So there's a conflation between work and your own personal identity. You can't like really separate the two. And the artists that do separate the two, you know, we feel like it's not fully authentic. You know what I mean? Not naming any musicians, but like you can feel you know, they're lying. Yeah. They're just gassing.
Yeah. So I totally hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hear your stance.
Listen, I'm not conforming to no. I'm not doing it.
Thank God.
I'm not doing it.
So we know more about Tef today. You know, Tef has some sort of integrity.
Come on, man.
Even if he wants to finesse the system in any way possible.
Yeah. So continuing on the artist thing, I want to ask you like how you feel about when you see an artist that you maybe followed from the start of their career, like a musician. When they started, they were underground. They were, you know, creating music that the fans loved, that you loved, and then at some point,
more importantly, they loved, right?
Yeah. But I'm saying you have like a tie to that artist in the sense that you enjoyed their work, and then at some point they went major label pop music. They started creating some pop music. They basically sold out in a classic like artist sense of the word. How do you feel about that artist? Is part of you like, God, go get that bag?
Yeah, a lot of me go and get that bag.
Right. Okay. So what's the difference between that and the
same way? If they ask me the question, should I do this or not? I'd say no. But I totally understand why and respect it. Okay, so if we break it back, people have different ambitions. People have different goals. Right?
Yeah.
So if we reverse engineer that decision, it's sort of like, what was their goal? And if their goal was always to make money, they are authentically being themselves. Whilst like my goal, if I was to make art, isn't just to make money. Therefore, I'm not reaching my goal by doing that. I'm actually diverting, of course, and not authentically being myself.
Yeah.
And if their goal was always to make money, happy days, they've been authentically themselves then. And I can't begrudge you for that.
Yeah, but you didn't ask your friend in the scenario. You didn't ask him what his goal was.
But he's asked me for my opinion.
Yeah, but at no point did you did we explore what his goal? If his goal was to make money, would your answer change? If his goal was always to make money, like he was making art that challenged the system and that blah blah blah, but that was all a ruse to make money.
I've taken the assumption that he was making the art that was important to him.
To be fair, I did as well.
Yeah,
and I think that's the correct assumption. But if I tweak it now and like you knew he was always about the peas from the jump, would that change your advice to him?
100%.
Yeah. Just go get a check.
Go do what you must. I would suggest if it was my friend that isn't the best means of living.
Because you're diluting your own identity.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But if that's the way you want to live, I will share my concerns. And if that's the way they want to live, then so be it.
Fair play. Fair play. Yeah, I thought that story about Jen tanning, I thought that was fucking hilarious. I just thought, what a guy.
Yeah, man.
And to come out in media and just be like, no, this was the piece. The piece is to take the money. Yeah, what a guy. He actually got fucked by the court.
Oh, did he badly?
Yeah, just all the money back, no restitution. And like you say, probably ostracized now, can never get work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't recommend that.
No.
To my version.
That's all crazy.
Yeah.
That's all mad. But yeah, a good episode, I think.
Yeah, man.
I love that one.
Thank you for having us.
It's been a pleasure.
This is Double T. Much love.
Take care. What are you doing?
Yo. Okay, shake on.
I'm ready. I'm excited for this one.
You've got probably about 2 minutes left.
On the cameras?
Yeah.
Fuck, we're going for that long?
Yeah.